If financial assistance is required and you want to provide it, the first step is to find out what is the minimal amount required to make the deal work. Now let's look at the top 5 ways that you can financially assist your child to buy their first home. Let's have a look at those right now. Greetings, I'm Rick Ward. I'm a working class wealth creator and educator with Working Class Wealth Creations. Now here are the top 5 ways to financially assist your child in buying their first home. Number 1 is to use your equity. This is by far the most popular way that parents help their child buy their first home. They use the equity in their own home to secure the loan for the child. Now this means that you have to have significant equity in your own home because you need enough equity to secure your own loan as well as to secure the new loan. This is a pretty painless way to provide financial assistance. You actually don't need to come up with any cash. This equity is already locked up in your house and there's no money being pulled out or taken. It's just securing the loan. So your child will borrow 100% of the loan value, but basically your loan is secured by the equity in your own home. The advantages for the child is that they don't need to come up with this cash. And if there's adequate equity in your property, then they won't need to get primary mortgage insurance, which could save them thousands of dollars. And for you, the advantage is just a bit of paperwork. You don't actually have to provide any cash funds. Now, with all financial arrangements, there is risk. And the most common risk that people associate this strategy with is that the child is unable to make the mortgage payments and the bank wants to foreclose on the property. Well, they're going to come for you because you've secured it and you've put your house up. So if they repossess the house from your child and sell it and there's a shortfall, they're going to come to get it from you. And if you don't have the cash or facilities available, they will sell your house as well to get the money owed to them. So that has happened. It's the most common known risk to this strategy. A little known risk, which is a risk to your child that they need to be aware of, is that if the parents fall into financial hard times and they no longer can maintain that level of equity, their house can be sold, and the same rule applies. If the bank doesn't get enough money for their house, they can sell the child house as well to make up the difference. These two properties are linked and the bank has full control to make sure that they're going to get their money. And I've seen this happen where the property prices were at all-time peak when the child bought the property, so they bought their property at a very high price, and the valuation on the parents' property was very high because it was a peak. And then the relationship with the parents broke down and they got divorced and they split assets, and the mother was able to keep the family home, but there was very, very little equity in that. And then when the market turned over, she went into negative equity, and the child on their home was in negative equity. Now, because they continued to make their payments, there wasn't a big issue with the bank. They didn't come looking for them, but the mother continued to be in financial strife, and she could no longer afford to make the payment, so she was going to sell the house. And if she sold the house, it was unlikely that there was enough to pay her mortgage out, but they likely wouldn't have that 20% equity in the child's home. So the child needs to come up with this equity to secure the loan or take out mortgage insurance to make some arrangement with the bank. If the child can't come up with that payment, then the child's home is sold as well. So this strategy can cut both ways. It's a fantastic strategy, very popular, a lot of people use it, but you need to be aware of the risk, and the risk on all sides, not just to the parent, there's also a risk to the child purchasing this house. So just keep that in mind if this is a strategy that you plan on using. Number 2 is deposit guarantee. Now this works exactly the same way as the home equity loan using your equity, except this time you're only securing the deposit. Now this isn't available in all jurisdictions. You need to talk to your mortgage broker, your bank, whoever your financial institution is, to see if there's a product that they offer which you're just guaranteeing the deposit. Now say the deposit is $15,000 or $20,000. You don't want to put up your whole house, $300,000 house against $15,000. So if you have some other way, if you have a deposit or savings or a stock portfolio, if you can use some other ones that roughly the value is around that $15,000, $20,000 equal to what you're securing, then that's the way to go. Again, you're putting up the security, you're not putting up cash, you're not having to sell anything. It's pretty painless, not a piece of paper to it. This is a good strategy. This is one I've used myself because you're only being guarantor on the deposit, that percentage, not the whole loan. So the child sells the bank takes the property, the child sells the property, and so the sale price comes short $15,000-$20,000. Well, you're going to be up for that $15,000 or $20,000, and they could take the security or sell the security that you've put up unless you have some other way of financing it. But your overall risk is a lot less. This is a really good product. If your bank offers that, check it out. If your bank doesn't, talk to a mortgage broker, see who does. It's a better way of reducing your risk and still achieving the same result. And once your child's property has significant equity in it that'll cover the deposits amount, then you can have your guarantee removed, depending on where you're brought in this property cycle. This could be a long time, or this could be just a few months. And number 3 is you finance the whole purchase. This is something that is done quite often. And basically, you're using your borrowing capacity to buy the home. You buy the home outright. You take out the loan. You take 100% loan out. This is usually caused by the child having very poor credit rating, and for some reason they can't get a loan even with you co-signing for it. It's a matter of you taking the loan out for the whole property. You can also use this strategy in investing. I've actually used it in investing, where I've used my borrowing capacity and my security, and I've taken out a loan, and then I've given that money to an investor to do a project, and then they paid me a premium. So if the interest on the loan cost me 5%, I was charging them 10%. So I was making a bit of cash flow until they paid the loan out. Using this to buy a child's home, I don't think it's a terrific, I think there's better ways of doing it. But if you are going to do this, then I would insist that the bank put your child's name on the mortgage as well, which they're probably going to be happy to do because it's extra security. And that might help them rebuild their own credit history and their own credit rating, the ability to refinance later and get you out of the loan. With the title, though, it depends on your jurisdiction. It's easy to remove your name on and off the titles. Then, you can have everyone's on the title. In jurisdictions like here in Western Australia, there's stamp duty, which could be up to 5% of the purchase price. So you're talking thousands of dollars to have your name removed or put on. And in that case, you don't want it on there because the long term, it's your child's home. So even though you don't have your name on the mortgage, you can draw up contracts that give you an interest, much like a mortgage the bank does. You basically become the bank in this scenario. Again, get expert advice on whether this sort of strategy would work for you or not. I'm not a fan, but it may be just the situation that you're looking for. The other thing I would worry about, if you're being the bank, you need to again make sure about what kind of strings are attached. When it comes to your child's personal property, there's a lot of emotions attached to that, and so even though you're putting the money up, you got to make sure that other than making their payments and paying you back, there shouldn't be any conditions that you put on that. Otherwise, could really have ramifications on your relationship. As far as risk to the parents, it can have a lot to do with your relationship and the character of your child. Your child may get used to your parents paying for things and not make payments, and I've seen that happen often in this scenario, where the children say, "Oh, well, I need to live. I need living expenses. I can't pay the mortgage this month," so they don't pay the parents. And if the parents are in difficult financial difficulties themselves, this can be a real burden on themselves. And also, there's a chance if the child's young and immature and they have their friends and they trash the house and end up causing all kinds of damage and then just walking away, because there is no real repercussions for the child. And this could also be a risk to the parents. So again, give a thought whether this is going to be a suitable option for you or not. Number 4 is joint venture. I really like joint ventures for buying investment properties with my children. This is where you're going half, and that means you're both on the title, you're both on the loan. You only need to come up with half the security. The reason you do it with your child, because chances are you have equity, and so you might be putting up the equity and the child is putting up cash flow. I don't really like this strategy for your primary residence, because I don't want to have anything to do with my child's actual home. It's their home. They have ownership of that. If it's an investment and we got somebody else living in it, absolutely, this is excellent. It's a way to work with a joint project to help strengthen your relationship and build your relationship. Going to partnership, the kid can work side by side with you. If you have experience in buying homes, you can educate them. If neither of you do, then you walk that journey together, and you find out your child comes from a different perspective, and they may be more internet savvy, more research savvy, and so that can be a really learning experience for both of you. It can be really good. So if you want to go into a joint venture with your child on investment property, I think it's great. I want to do that with all my children. But for a primary residence, purchasing a primary residence, I don't recommend it because, again, you have too much say, too much invested in their property. Depends on your relationship and your own ability to remove yourself from that situation. It's not your house, it's your child's house. And with the payments, the idea is what's clear, what's happening with it, what's your exit strategy. When the property gets a certain value, you're going to sell it and split the profits. Is the child going to pay you out? If the child's going to pay you out, how do they get their name off your title? I know in some places it's not a problem, just go get the name taken off. In other places, you're going to have to pay stamp duty, taxes. So get some real advice on that one. Again, for owner-occupier, not a great strategy. For investing with a child, I think it's great. And number 5 is gifting a property that you own. Again, this is very, very popular. Some people have acquired investment properties or maybe their own home. They're looking at going into a retirement village or retirement home, and they want to pass their child on the family home or an investment property to help them out to get them started. Now, you have no mortgage on this, or perhaps you have a small mortgage, and you just want to pass that property over to the child. Now, again, professional advice, your locality makes a big difference, what the rules are. In some places, this is not an issue. You go and you pay a few $100s and you transfer the names with names and titles. The transaction can be easy, but tax implications might be different. Again, you want to be talking to an accountant. How's that going to impact on your taxes and your child's taxes by gifting, and having a plan around that. It's been my experience in talking to a lot of financial planners that you want to be thinking about this well in advance. So if this is something in your mind that you one day you want to give your child a home or a property that you own, then talk to them and get advice right now, because 5 years out seems to be the magic period where the government and taxation department doesn't mind you gifting or spacing that out over time. If you do it the last minute, it looks like you're trying to hide money and cheat the tax man. Or if you're going into care, again, it looks like you're trying to do something shonky if you just do it last minute and you wait till it happens, which often that's the case. It just happens last minute. We don't think ahead. But if you know now if this is something you'd like to do, and even though you may be looking a ways out, if it's 5 years out, let's talk to people now and start getting things in place. You can structure things. If you wait till it's a bit later and there's not enough time, there's a matter of you can set up trust, and that works the same way. By setting up a trust, you can put the property into trust and transfer over to the child. Again, you need to talk to an accountant, a financial planner that's in your locality, that's familiar with your local legislations around this. If you get it wrong, this could be a financial nightmare for you and your child. There's a chance that both of you end up with such tax bills that you'd have to sell the property just to pay the tax, and the only one who wins is the tax man. And it could cause an array of problems with you if you need to go into care. So get professional advice. There's nothing wrong with gifting this. Done correctly, it's wonderful. So to get the very best result, you need to give some thought to this ahead of time. So those are the top 5 ways to financially assist your child in purchasing their first home. And there's many, many variations on all these. Those are just the most popular ones. Most things, when it comes to property, it's a commercial transaction. You can get a lawyer to write up just about any sort of arrangement. That's the beauty about property. It's really quite flexible. But there can be ripples and ramifications to unforeseen things beyond the actual property transaction. And always, beyond the financial, you continue to stay in there and coach. Provide that emotional support, help them with research, be connected with them. You can just write the check and they'll be grateful, and that's lovely, but be in this journey with them, and they'll find that quite a enriching experience for your relationship. And as always, if there's any strings attached, you need to be very clear about that up front before you look at any property, before you make any deal. Really communicate and talk to them so everyone's clear on what they want to achieve from this transaction. Otherwise, when things change, you have a certain idea of what you think the deal entails, and the child has got an idea of what they think it entails, and when it's not the same, then later on when it starts to fray, both sides feel hard done by and cheated, and it's just toxic for the relationship. So having those conversations early before any money is exchanged or any property is purchased, be very clear with that, and that'll just, those communication, those meetings will just strengthen your relationship. The final few points around the contingency: you need to be very clear on what the money's being used for, very clear on what the expectation is. Is this a gift, or is it to be paid back over what period, and what are the ways it's going to be paid back? You need to talk to your accountant to ensure all the tax implications and put all these things in writing as agreement together. And this is especially important if there's other siblings involved, and this could make part of their inheritance and part of your estate. So I hope you found that helpful, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. If this is the first time to this channel and this is the sort of content you're interested in, I'd encourage you to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell where you'll be notified anytime I release new content such as this and other meaningful topics that are relevant to people over 50 and getting towards retirement or actually in retirement. If you have any suggestions on content that you'd like to see, issues that are impacting on you or your friends or our generation of the baby boomers, please let me know and I'll provide some content around that. You can let me know by leaving comments in the section below, or you can email me at workingclasswealthcreations@gmail.com. If you know anyone else who'd be interested in this content, then please share this video, share this channel with people you know over 50, people who'd be interested in getting the most out of their retirement years. And you can also share this on your social media. You can follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course my website, workingclasswealthcreations.com. So until next time, this is Rick Ward teaching you how to create, manage, and retain your first generation wealth.